Welcome back, fellow modelers. Today is a reveal of something I did many years ago, and just as a little precautionary thing, I am going to say, spoiler alert: this train is for a movie. If you have not seen the movie and you would like to see the movie, I'm going to spoil some parts of the movie. So if you want it spoiled, um, now's the time to fuck all that up for you. So here, some of you will recognize this as the Runaway Train from the 1985 movie um, called Runaway Train with John Voight and Eric Roberts and Rebecca something or other. I can't remember her last name. Anyway, um, I did this project back in 2012, so quite a while now. Not too terribly long ago, but in the past. And I am to the point with these now that I am going to be rebuilding this set two more times. Um, I'm going to do another post-rec version, which is what's sitting in front of me, and we'll go through it. And then I'm going to do a pre-rec version, because I've always wanted the pre-rec version, but I love the rec version, so um, this set will forever live on, but I'm creating two new sets to kind of redo some of the stuff I did wrong. And I'm going to go through all the stuff I did wrong, quite a few things that I want to change, that I've wanted to change for quite some time now, so now's the time. And so I'll start showing you guys the train itself. So everything here is Athearn Blue Box locomotives. Everything is Athearn frames, Athearn drives, old Athearn stuff. Of course, very detailed. Not super detailed, but more detailed than average. And of course, specific damage and weathering for the movie. If some of you have seen this movie and you know what happened through it, you'll notice certain things that are done to each locomotive to coincide with parts of the movie. I basically modeled this set at right at the end of the movie, pretty much. Uh, Heavy snow, the damage, stuff like that. So we'll go through and I'll kind of show you guys the locomotives, and then I'll tell you what I did wrong and what I'm going to be changing. So here we have the lead GP40 with the damage on the front from the wreck. I'm just going to try to give you guys some good shots of everything, so that way if you want to pause and look at stuff longer, you can, if you're trying to do your own rendition of this train. So this locomotive in particular started life as a Seaboard Systems GP40-2. Athearn Blue Box, bought it off of eBay. You guys can see I've gone and added the couldn't find looking through the screen. Couldn't the grab irons are all hand bent out of brass routing. All these, the top grab iron, I hand bent those out of brass routing. Some of the pilot details are Details West stuff, along with just some brass rods for the main air hoses. The Winterization Hatch was actually a Proto 2000 part that I put on there. Custom built the firecracker antenna, and then I think the warning beacon on this particular locomotive is a Proto 2000 warning beacon. Um, the damage on the front was done by doing kind of working off of the photos of the real one. I didn't do it the greatest, so some things I kind of want to change on that, but it looks pretty cool. I was pretty happy with it at the time, and I'm still pretty happy with it. It's pretty cool either way. I used a combination of styrene, like little sheets of styrene that I could cut, um, little hoses, parts of actual freight cars, and how I got a lot of this like crumpled up metal look was that's actually tin foil that I crumpled up and kind of twisted and cut and morphed into place. And so, I mean, it took me a little while. Um, but it was fun. It was pretty cool, but I want to redo it. I can do it better. I know I can. Um, Another tidbit here. Um, I had actually modeled these locomotives before I ever watched the movie. I knew of the movie and I had seen a couple little bits and pieces of it throughout the years, but I never actually just sat and watched it. So I literally built these before I watched the movie. As I was building these, I actually ordered the DVD online and had finished these before watching the movie. Well, of course, I made some mistakes because there are photos of it, but not the greatest photos sometimes. And there was some discrepancies between what I had and what the movie had, and I had already had so much done. I went back and changed a couple things here and there that kind of bothered me right off the bat, but I basically just had to be okay with it with how it was, and I was. I mean, I love this thing; it's cool. Ran it at my old train club a lot, and they loved it. And the crowds always seem to get a kick out of it. Um, so now that I've seen the movie more times than I could even count, and I've literally raped the internet for photos, dug through any forums and anything. I mean, I've literally got every bit of photography of these locomotives that I possibly could. Plus, I took screenshots off of clips of the movie from my phone, so I have direct references from the movie itself. So, so it's gonna be a lot better this time. I have a lot more stuff to work with. Basically, what I used was just some photos, some movie poster stuff that I found online. So, and then kind of the limitations with these, and me at the time back then not really getting too crazy with chopping and hacking up shells and doing all sorts of crazy shit like that. I just kind of did with what I could and the parts that I had. I didn't really go and buy much on eBay for this. I tried to use a lot of in-house stuff, which kind of held me back on some things too. Um, so yeah, but I was pretty happy at the time, and like I said, I still like it. It's cool, but it's wrong. So that's what we're trying to fix is this time around. We're gonna make it better. Um, so things that are wrong with this GP40-2. The first thing is it's not the correct era GP40-2. It does not have the light era radiator grills on the side here. These are early. I needed GP40-2s with the late style. I have found stuff, but for now we're just going through this. That's going to be a whole other video when I start getting into the project. But so that was one mistake. The next mistake was I used a full-size fuel tank. Now, along with the fuel tank and the radiators, they used actual Alaska Railway locomotives in the movie because the movie is heavily based on Alaska. Parts of it were filmed in I think Montana, like Anaconda, Montana, had a lot of areas that they used. So in the movie, there is discrepancies in some of the locomotives as well, because the first view we ever see of this in the movie, it's GP38-2 in the lead, and the two GP7s in the back have the normal Bloomberg trucks, like what the F7A and what the GP40 have. So, kind of throughout the movie and different scenes that they shot in different locations, there's some discrepancies. The wreck scene, they used a model for some of that, and I think that locomotive was like a GP35. So, it's any railroad movie, and most of us know this, any railroad movie will bug us because there's discrepancies in the locomotives, the details. It's Hollywood. They don't really stick to their guns when it comes to that. They're just trying to make an exciting movie for the average person. They're not making it for us nitpickers that are really into that stuff. So I never paid too much attention. I just knew it was a GP40 as the base locomotive throughout the whole movie. So I just got a GP40-2 and worked with it. Well, turns out some stuff was wrong, like the tank, the era of the shell itself. Um, I did not put a long enough winterization hatch. It should extend a little bit further. Um, Not quite to where the dynamic vents start, but definitely remove that top vent there, go over. So we're gonna change that. Um, my overall snow effect on this was done with wet. Well, it was done with pastel. I took white pastel, crushed it up, made a powder, and then I applied it wet and heavy, and then clear coated over it with Krylon matte spray, and it looks cool and it looks ghostly, but my snow effects are a little heavy, a little too much in certain areas. I don't have enough browns and uh, warmer tones, especially on these two lead units, or the lead unit and the F7A. Those are supposed to be a kind of more of brown with some grimy black mixed in, and then the two rear units are a little bit darker. So, along with my snow effects that I'm going to change, I'm going to do different paint. I'm going to experiment with some different paints. I'm going to take a couple junk shells and I got some acrylics and some sprays, and I'm going to kind of see what works better for me, and try to get a lot more better overall look of the weathering and the paint throughout. So a couple things that were amiss on this, and that's what we're going to change on that. So we'll go on to the F7A. The movie, the Alaska unit that they used was 3010, the cab number 3010, Alaska Railroad GP40-2, just as a side note. This was their Alaska Railroad 1500 cab number, F7A. So this, you guys can see, it's got the big plow on there, and I basically took just a diesel plow and bent it to fit the pilot. To me, that kind of seemed like the best thing. They do make special plow pilots. Details West does, and they're not quite right. So I think I'm gonna stick with the bent diesel plow. It works pretty good. It's not 100%, but it looks good and it works good. Now in the movie, I have, if you know, I modeled the missing window there, and the missing window on that door right there. Has all the other windows. a Details West warning beacon. All the grab irons on this are all hand bent brass routing that I did. The airline for where the horn should have been. Now, yes, no horns on any of these. First shot that you see of these, those locomotives have horns. Like I said, they're different locomotives in Montana, a different railroad. But for some reason, when they did these, they removed all the horns. So that's why there's no horns. So this window is missing because Ranky's one henchman, the Warden Ranky, comes down, helicopter, falls off here, goes crashing through the window, falls out. And then John Voight's character later knocks the rest of the glass out and comes out. This window is missing when Manny pushes Rebecca's character back and her head breaks the window. So just some side notes of why there's missing windows on that. Did the side steps up here from that's all brass routing. Used actually cut this off of a GP7 blue box, cut it off and raised it up and put it on here. And it's a little too long, so that's gonna change. The dynamic fan on the real locomotive is actually a large size dynamic fan. Athearn Blue Box shells never had that, so I just kind of worked with that. Well, this next go around, I'm going to be cutting these out and putting larger ones in to make that better. There are some differences in the sill and the fuel tank, but the way these blue box locomotives are created, I can't really change that a whole lot. I can remove some of this stuff, but I at least need to keep this middle spot to hold the shell to the frame. I don't really feel like doing a bunch of frame mods and shell mods to hold things together, because I am doing another round of blue box. I really want to do it with older locomotives, put in the work, put all the grab irons in myself, do all that stuff. I want it to be a hard project like that. So, like I said, there's limitations with these shells and these frames, so some of it I just kind of have to work with. But yeah, more Details West parts for like the MU hoses. Other than that, it's a really good, cool looking representation of 1500 from the movie. Pretty cool. Pretty happy with it. It's a wicked looking locomotive too. With this being an A unit and the curves, F7A, it looks pretty scary. Get the creepy look from it. That's what I really liked about it. So, I was pretty happy with that, but there's a few changes. A few little things that we're going to change on the next versions. So put that back. And I'm going to kind of, just for the sake of this is already going to be a long video, the two GP7s. So these, of course, are Athearn Blue Box GP7s. Of course modded, because they never made non-dynamic. So I custom made these hoods. I cut out the dynamic part on both of these and custom made these hoods. And I wound up cutting and reusing the Winterization Hatches. And then the damage to the railings that you kind of get to see some of that when they're crossing between these units in the movie. Just a couple stanchions left and not a whole lot left. So that's why that's all wonky, because it's supposed to be. Couple things about these. One, if I remember correctly, this original number was 1810, and this one was 1801. GP7s that Alaska Railroad had purchased from the U.S. Army They were heavily modded. They had low noses originally, and they actually, in the movie, built they rebuilt the high noses out of plywood. And if you really watch the movie closely, the first GP7 in the lineup has a kind of a standard cab, almost like what this has, and the hood is up higher than the rest of it. Um, because the way the number boards are on those cabs, they built the wood up around it, so this hood is actually up higher in the movie, and it has a standard cab. This one actually has the arched cab, and I think this hood was built slightly up higher, but not quite as high as that one. Um, they do have the AAR Type B or AAR-B Alco trucks. Those are an Athearn part. The all-weather windows I did wrong. It's all I had at the time. These are a 3-window style, like what you see on the RSs. I am going to be changing those out for the 2-window style. And I put them on both sides, and they're not supposed to be on both sides. Now, the locomotives that they filmed in the States had all-weather windows on both sides, but the Alaska Railway units did not. All they had on this side was mirrors, and the operator side had the all-weather window on it. So I'll be changing that. Another thing that I did really wrong is the winterization hatches. Now, of course, you see there's no visible fans back here anymore. And if some of you know what a normal Athearn Blue Box GP7 looks like, it's got a winterization hatch that's up here, and it's actually kind of over where the dynamics are. The dynamic fan is, it's kind of molded into that part. So when I cut all that out, I had to cut these out to salvage them and reuse them. Well, for one, I didn't face them the right way. They're the exposed area here should be facing forward. It should be back as literally right up against the sand hatch. It should be all the way back, and there should be one exposed fan in front of it. So I did those completely wrong, so we're going to redo that. And then some specifics with these locomotives is they were kind of pre-modded from the U.S. Army, so they removed, on one of these, they removed this forward cooling fan. One was completely removed, and one was plated over. The fan was still there, but they plated over it. And then the forward vent was sealed up on both of them. So, I believe it was 1810 had the fan completely removed. The one with the standard cab had the fan completely removed, vent sealed up, and then 1801 had the vent sealed up and the fan sealed up. Well, when I go back and do these, I'm just going to remove these fans completely. Just going to be a smooth spot, cover over the vents, and then that'll be a lot better. Another thing I have to kind of work on is the exhausts on these. They kind of have high stacks. And something I found pretty interesting after seeing these locomotives not modded up for the movie was 1810 has 4 stacks, while 1801 just had 2 stacks. But in the movie, they shortened the 2 middle stacks and left the taller stacks at each end, so that way these 2 locomotives basically looked identical. Just to the untrained eye, they looked identical. I'm not going to go through modeling 2 short stacks in here. I am going to raise these stacks up. These ones on the old version here, I just kind of used a stock size stack, and so when I redo the new units, I'm going to make the stacks probably double the height. It would be prototypically correct to the real life thing. So just a lot of little things around that I need to change on the GP7s. And I'm actually not doing blue box for the GP7s this time. I'm using a old company called Front Range. If you've never heard of Front Range products, there's some pretty nice stuff. It's older stuff yet, but you can use your Athearn drives, Athearn or Proto 2000 drives in it. Old Proto 2000, because if you know, Proto 2000, old Proto 2000 trucks are the exact same trucks as Athearn blue box stuff. So those shells are proportioned a little bit better. You know, these are older, so they're kind of wider. The hoods themselves are kind of wider. So the new ones are proportioned better. They actually have really nice fans that you can see through on them, and they come with a non-dynamic hood insert. All that stuff really helps me out. So you guys will see some of that. But for now, I'm just trying to show off the original and talk about everything I did wrong. But I was younger. Didn't really pay too much, didn't see the movie, so I was just kind of working off of some YouTube clips at the time. And I missed a lot of details. A lot of stuff I just kind of missed, and I was fine with that for a while, but I really want to do it better. I want to do it as close to the prototype as I possibly can. There's still going to be differences just because I am limited on, these older Athearn blue box stuff. But like I said, I want to do it older. I want to make this a really in-depth project with a lot of drilling and detailing and stuff like that. So, originally, when I first had this string of locomotives together, these couplers aren't working out here. I only powered the lead unit, and I had these three dummied, and that kind of went along with at the end of the movie when Manny finally breaks the lead locomotive away and starts pulling away, and then these kind of just roll to a stop, and then the lead unit carries on till the end of the movie. So I kind of had that to where I could just drop these three behind and send the lead unit on its way. Right now everything is powered because I wanted to actually pull some trains with this, so I wound up powering all four locomotives. These couplers are a little stiff because they are heavily caked up with white pastel. But I mean, it's, at the time it was a really cool project. I was really proud. I'm still pretty proud of it, even though it's not 100%. It's cool. There's not a whole lot of these out there. There are some. There are a handful of us that have modeled this consist pre and post rec. So I'm pretty, with it being my first attempt, it's not bad. But the next two attempts here are really going to be something else. I'm really going to try to take some more time. I kind of rushed this project along too, so I'm going to take a little bit more time. I'm going to experiment with some new techniques that I've never used before, so that's kind of got me a little nervous to try some new stuff, but in the end it should work out if I test, kind of perfect a method, and then apply it to the actual model this time. All these I just kind of went for it and hope that it turned out, and like I said, it's not bad, but it can be a lot better. One thing that I did do that a lot of people got a kick out of was, as you know, in the end of the movie, Jon Voight's character Manny breaks away the locomotive, and then he climbs to the top and rides it out. I made a little teeny Manny with some snow on him. Even his fucked up fingers are a little bloody from when he got his hand pinched between the couplers. And you might notice that he's got some little teeny brass rods in the bottom of his feet. Well, I've got a couple holes that you can just kind of see on there. They blend in pretty good from afar, but if you really get up on it, you can see I drilled out 2 of the holes on this winterization hatch. So I could actually have the very end of the movie where Manny does his right away and basically frees himself and the rest of his prisoner friends from Ranky, who is at the time currently chained up in, or cuffed up in the cab there. So there I can have that wonderful shot of, you know, the locomotive running away with Manny riding on top. So I did that as a pretty cool little kicker. This was and still is my first and only movie train that I've ever modeled. After the Unstoppable movie came out, I was gonna try to do those, but I was like, eh. And then what the hell's the name of that movie? Silver Streak. I was gonna do the A units from, or A and B. I can't remember now. Either way, it's CP Rail F7s from that movie, but other people have done that way better than what I could. So, but I definitely want to retackle this project. That movie is probably number 2 on my list of favorite movie. It's right underneath Twister. So I mean, it's pretty high up in my movies. I love the movie. I've seen it a dozen times. I could watch it every day and never get old. So I'm pretty passionate about this project, and I really, really, really want to do it better. I want to do it justice. I want to change some of the stuff that's bothered me for years and years now. Because as cool as this is, and as cool as it looks when it's all running down a layout, all these little details have just bugged me forever. So I'm ready to try to retackle this project and really prove to myself. I don't care, you know, I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody else. I really don't care about other people's opinions. I care about people, just not their opinions. I want to do it for myself. I want to prove to myself that I can do it better and I can make it look cooler. But it is